Okay, number 11, Tulane. At number 6, Ole Miss in Oxford. Pete Golding, the new head coach at Ole Miss now. No more Lane Kiffin, although Ole Miss did beg for all of the LSU offensive assistants who went with Kiffin from Ole Miss to LSU to come back for this game. But they're not letting Kiffin back for this game. But they're having all the assistants come back for this game. Doesn't make a lot of sense. We've been over this a million times. That they have no shot to win the national title without their head coach, and why the administration wanted to do that, I will never, ever, ever understand. By the way, if you heard Trinidad Chambliss the other day, he got asked, I wrote the quote in my newsletter, he got asked, where are you going to play next year if you get this waiver? Because he's applied for this waiver. Like, people have been on pins and needles waiting to see if he's got it from the NCAA. The decision's supposed to have been any day now. It's been like weeks in November now, or in December now. But he got asked at the pre-bowl game presser, where are you going to play next year if you get this waiver? And he goes, quote, "I would have to consider what the best situation is for me, what I feel more comfortable with, who I trust the most, and get a feel for every possibility, really." So there's a lot that goes into that. Huh. That smells like LSU to me. That smells like Lane Kiffin to me. With who I trust the most, who I'm most comfortable with. Is it going to be a defensive-minded head coach and Pete Golding, who's probably a great guy and probably a great coach? Or is it going to be the greatest coach they've ever had by a mile, who is now at LSU? By the way, winner of this game gets Georgia in the Sugar Bowl January 1st. The transfer portal opens January 2nd. Not trying to be a downer here. If Ole Miss loses to Georgia, day later the portal opens. Would not be surprised at all if Trinidad's got a sweet package cooked up by those LSU boosters, signed off by the governor, of course, for Trinidad, and maybe even Quan Lacey too. 20 rushing touchdowns, most in Ole Miss history this year. It's tough for Ole Miss, man. I get it. Like it's not their fault that Lane wanted the LSU job. I think most people would tell you, I love how Lane in his presser was like, yeah, I called Pete Carroll and I called Nick Saban and they told me to take it, so I took it. Like, he was totally deflecting the blame. Like, I called these two legends and they told me to take it, so I took it. I think pretty sure he's going to take it without those guys telling him that. I don't think he needed those guys to say, yeah, you can shake a tree and find a 5-star wide receiver in your backyard. That's Saban's famous saying about Louisiana. Anyways, the game itself, obviously John Summerall on his way to Florida. Sunbelt Billy's taken over at JMU. Pardon me. Sunbelt Billy, who obviously got fired by Florida, is now going to JMU. That's the next game that we'll preview. Tulane's new coach. I don't remember if they have one or not already. I feel like they do. Does Tulane have a new head coach? Gosh darn it. Now I got myself looking. Will Hall. OC, veteran assistant, former Southern Miss head coach Will Hall has been promoted to head coach a couple days ago. Okay. Did not know that. There you go. So, this game. Rematch of one in Oxford, 45-10 earlier this year. We've already seen the game. It was a blowout. The stands were half full for this one. Back on September 20th. It was back on September 20th. I love that Summerall's not afraid to bench Jake Retzlaff. By the way, Retzlaff set the single-season program record for rushing touchdowns by a QB this year with 16. And my hat goes off to Tulane for winning the American. That's a good conference, man. You had Navy, you had South Florida, you even had Memphis in there for a bit. You had North Texas, who I saw in person. Really good passing team anyway. And Tulane beat North Texas, packed him up in the conference title game in New Orleans at Tulane University. I will say the Ole Miss game earlier this year, Jake Retzlaff, 5 of 17 for 56 yards and no touchdowns, got benched for Brendan Sullivan, the backup. You may remember that name. Where's he from? Former Iowa QB, Brendan Sullivan, played a little bit last year. He's the backup QB for the Green Wave. I went to the UTSA game where, remember, John Summerall and Jeff Traylor were kind of shouting at each other in the press conference about, is there fake crowd noise or not? There's definitely fake crowd noise in the Alamo Dome. I'm here to tell you, been there in person for a handful of UTSA games. I mean, there was maybe a couple thousand fans there, and it sounded like there were 40, 50,000 fans there. It is a dome, so the noise reverberates and comes back down and makes it a lot louder. But There was some fake crowd noise piped in there. I'm just going to say that. My personal opinion as someone who's been there a couple of times. Do like Summerall a lot. He's a really good coach. It was weird when he was kind of trashing his team earlier this year in press conferences saying, I can't believe we're ranked in the top 25. I don't even know if we should be ranked in the top 40 or top 50. He's harsh on his team. But, obviously took the Florida job, still won the American Championship game, so the team's definitely still playing for him. He's not afraid to bench Retzlaff. I wouldn't be surprised if Retzlaff got benched in this game. I think if you're Ole Miss, this game goes one of two ways. Like, your players either come out like us against the world, Lane Kiffin left us, we'll prove everyone wrong, and they play incredible and with their hair on fire and they win by 40 or 30, or they come out really flat and uninspired, and we've already played and beat Tulane, and we don't even have our old head coach. I know that Pete Golding's officially promoted as our new head coach, and this is his first game, and he's been with us, but our assistants had to come back because our administration needed them back. Charlie Weiss Jr. and the play caller and the other guys, like, we needed assistants for this game. So it does feel a little bit, of course, like a fractured coaching roster, and I don't want to say fractured locker room because I'm not there in person. I think that's up to Trinidad, honestly. I think it's the leadership of the team, Trinidad and Kawan Lacey. And by the way, like, the game when Ole Miss played at Georgia and hung 35 on them and had a lead late and then ultimately lost 43-35 because they couldn't get a stop. But that was the best game I've seen a quarterback play against Georgia in a long time. Joey Aguilar went off. He played incredible in Neyland earlier this year when they lost in overtime, like 43-41 or something. He had a couple of deep balls in that game, but it was, and he was, again, Joey Aguilar was great in that game, but it was a little bit of all or nothing ball in that game. It was a lot of just like chuck it deep. Ole Miss kind of routinely, methodically sustained drives up and down the field pretty much all game long until the back half of the fourth quarter against Georgia. And it was Trinidad's legs. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, had a passing touchdown, but even the stats in that game were like, they don't tell the whole story. Like, the sleight of hand, the third down conversions, the awareness, the ability to get out of sacks, because Georgia can make it a long day on her quarterback if he's not mobile. Like, dude, Trinidad was just magical in that game. Like, if they would have won that, he could have been a Heisman front runner. Probably didn't, because he didn't start the first 2 games. He probably didn't have enough stats or didn't have enough playing time for people to have voted him Heisman. I'll tell you what, if he goes to LSU next year with the brilliant offensive mind that Kiffin is, I would imagine he'll be the betting favorite to win the Heisman in the preseason. Doesn't mean he actually will win it, but I imagine he'd be the betting favorite to win it in the preseason. Obviously I like Ole Miss in this game. Just a big talent mismatch overall. They won the first game 45-10. I do think they'll cover. It'll be a little closer. I have 40-20. Ole Miss gets the cover. They cover 17.5. Winner gets Georgia in New Orleans. Obviously, this is the first ever college football playoff game for Ole Miss. First ever for Tulane. Might be the only time Tulane's ever in the playoff, to be honest. If the G5 rule changes next year and they just take the 12 best teams no matter what, it's gonna be interesting to see how those meetings go in the off season. But yeah. It's tough to go anywhere other than Ole Miss in this game. I'm really excited to see Trinidad, man. And I think it'll either be they're going to come out with their hair on fire and play incredible, or they're going to come out really flat. Either way, the Trinidad story is one to follow because he's really, if I could start a team with any quarterback in the sport, I would choose Trinidad Chambliss for college football just because of his dual threat ability. The guy's incredible, man. So pumped to see him again this Saturday.